Hi, I'm Zach. I'm going to talk about how simple words and phrases is destroying most people's capacity for joy and growth. I'm sure you've heard of the term toxic positivity, and it's not a great thing. It does the same thing. It destroys your capacity for joy and growth in many ways. But what I'm talking about is a negative state of mind. The negative state of mind most people have, and it's normalized. You know, I work at a gas station and I see a lot of people, a lot of the general public, and just in general, even before working at the gas station, I interacted with a lot of people. And from my experience, a lot of people have this negative outlook on life. They're dreading to go to work, and then whenever they're at work, they're dreading the work they have to do, and then there's very few highlights for them inside their life. And there's certain phrases and ways of talking that people have whenever interacting, and I'd imagine most of them are not conscious of how it affects them, how it affects their identity and the capacity for growth. Because whenever they have these negative phrases that hold them back, it's like a wall keeping them from actually growing. So, for example, whenever people say something as simple as, if someone's like, "Hey, how's it going?" and they're like, "I'm here." Just saying "I'm here" in such a way is like basically saying that you're dreading being there and that you're there, but it's like the baseline of being okay. Which, of course, it's always good to have clarity on where you're at. It's always good to have clarity on your emotions and your state of mind. And if you don't do that and you're just being delusional, then that's toxic positivity, which we don't want to go in that direction. But you could go too far in the other direction where you just accept these feelings and you accept the negativity, and then you come to a point where it's normalized and okay for you to be dreading going to work and being in a horrible mood, in a depressed state, almost to the point where you feel empowered by it, like it's something that people should give you applause for, like, "Oh yeah, you're in a bad mood and you're expressing yourself for it." But doing such a thing does not actually help solve the problem. It just keeps you stuck. And the more you do it, the more you continue to build walls and like calluses, a callous wall around you, keeping you from growing. And the best thing to do, I think, would be realize, at least what I do is I realize if I have ill feelings or some thoughts going on inside my mind that's making me feel a certain way from some experience, accept that within myself. But whenever I'm interacting with people or saying any words, I keep them refreshing and positive. And so I might say that something has gone wrong or I'm not feeling well, but I always end it with some form of accountability. Well, I'm not feeling well because I didn't do this, and I can still do this. And then I end it with some solution. But I've also found that most of the time, there's no need to even be saying that you're not feeling well. There's no need to be venting. There's no need to be complaining. And whenever it's normalized in society and the group of people, and it becomes a way of venting and the psychology of it is people see it as a solution to feel better, but whenever they vent and then it comes back and they realize it doesn't make them feel better, then they eventually feel worse, and then it just grows and builds and builds. And so the best thing to do would be not to vent it out, but to actually sit with yourself and work on the problem. And there's a million different things you can do to actually solve the ill feelings and depression and certain things in life, and that's not exactly what this video is about. There's a million steps you can take. Your food, what you do on a daily basis, how you're sitting, how you're breathing, what you're doing with your time, how you're interacting with people. So this is just one, and that's talking. In this video, I'm talking about how simply just talking too much and the words that you're saying can keep your thought process and your psychology closed in and keep your beliefs very limited, which will keep you from actually journeying out and finding the solution. And so I would urge most people to just be conscious throughout the day. Like, there's no need to freak out and think, oh my gosh, I've said that whenever someone says, how are you? And then you say, I'm here. But just throughout the day, as much as you can, every single time you have an interaction with someone, just take note of what comes out of you unconsciously, what phrases are inside of your brain, what have you accumulated through the years and picked up. Because it's not something unique to you. That's another thing. People will get in these states of mind that these phrases and this pain, this psychological pain to be at work or be at some place that they're venting about is unique to them, but it's all phrases and things that have been passed down and they've accumulated by interacting with other people. And so, as much as you can, try to not talk. Just use less words. But whenever it's necessary, be conscious of what you're saying and how you're saying it and how it's affecting you. And, go a day or two without saying those phrases and just sitting in silence or just not saying anything. That's better than saying that. You don't have to be fake and say, I'm doing great, whenever you feel horrible on the inside. But you could say much less and not continue to feed into the idea that you're not doing great. And you'll find many people are uncomfortable whenever you don't respond with the normal way of responding. Most people I've found at all of my jobs and most situations, I expect you to be dreading going to work, and they expect you to have that negativity about you. And whenever you don't, and you're not being overly positive, you're just being more silent and just being there, then it's an intensity that most people can't handle, and it brings them out of their comfort zone, and it also reminds them of how they're going about things, and they may not realize it consciously, but it makes them uncomfortable, and so they'll try to put you in a box or try to fit you somewhere to bring them comfort, or they will start to talk more if you're more silent and you're using less words. But if you just hold your ground and just stay sturdy in that foundation of just not compulsively talking and not saying these phrases that uh, enable you to be a victim and to have unnecessary suffering, then eventually they'll get used to that, or they'll start to grow more. So they'll put you in a box as someone who is just quiet and like that, or they will actually realize, because through your silence they will start to create that for themselves to a certain extent, at least in those situations where they interact with you. And so some people have this, what they think is a healthy negative outlook on life, where they're kind of like passive aggressive and just always negative, but they do it in a way to where it empowers them. And I mean, I'm not one to say that any way is better than the other. I mean, if they enjoy having that type of personality and it works for them and they're still joyful and, you know, fulfilled in life, and whenever they reach their deathbed they look back and they're like, yeah, I'm glad I was like that, then it works for them. But every single person I've met in real life isn't doing it consciously for that reason, to empower themselves and empower others around them. Sometimes it's funny and it puts smiles on people's faces whenever, you know, like the smart ass or asshole of the group. But much of the time I found people who are just overly negative and constantly relying on that are creating more negativity and making things up in their head and turning them negative whenever they're not actually negative. And that's only going to make things worse. From my experience and seeing like people like that at work, at my jobs, and people like that online, holding on to certain beliefs that, you know, life is suffering and it's always going to be like this, is just surrendering to the suffering rather than actually working on it and finding solutions for it. And so I would urge anyone with any belief with a negative foundation or outlook to just, or even overly positive, it's the same thing with an overly positive, that's toxic positivity. But there's another direction, and that's toxic negativity. I would say there's a sweet spot in the middle where you're not negative or positive like all the time. You just see things the way they are, and then you try your best to create positivity. Because if anybody could choose, why would you not want to create something positive, something joyful, blissful, something good for everybody's well-being? And we, as human beings, we have that potential. We've evolved to the point to where we can consciously think and create and feel the way that we want to feel. And, you know, I would urge people to, throughout the day, just realize where they're at, psychology and their emotions and how they feel about everything, and how much they see clearly and how much they're just unconsciously talking and reacting to people and wanting to be a victim, to empower themselves, to get attention, to feel better, to feel more enabled as to why they feel depressed and bad, rather than taking accountability of the actions and steps that they could be taking to make a change. So I strongly urge you to take a look and see, do you think these things? And, you know, transform yourself and see how it feels. I've gone both directions. I've been delusionally positive and toxic positivity and held down my emotions and built up resentment. But then I've also gone fiercely into negativity and just been ready to be very violent and hurtful to people. But then, you know, I've gone in between both of those, where it's like I thought it was a healthy amount of negativity, where I was just looking at the world the way it was. But the world isn't negative or positive, that's all perception. And whenever you turn it into either one, you're just stunting your growth. You can create more pleasant and better situations and react or respond in better ways for everyone's well-being, but it's not necessarily negative or positive. And getting drawn up on it and dreading going to work and thinking that certain situations and certain things are going to cause you suffering will only cause you more suffering, rather than just accepting it and facing it head on and just doing whatever you have to do. That will liberate you. That will make you feel far happier, far more joyful, and far less like a slave to the outcomes and situations and having to go to work and having to do this and having to deal with this type of person and do that. And then you'll find that, you know, every single day is a blessing. It's not, oh my gosh, I only got 3 hours of sleep. Oh, I didn't eat yet today. Oh, this is happening. Oh, like, whenever you take note and just be conscious of how you're thinking and feeling throughout the day, and on a week-to-week, month-to-month, year-to-year basis, and then you constantly focus and put energy to that and just actually transform yourself, then you don't have to feel that way or believe those things that are causing you unnecessary suffering. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Leave a comment down below. I'm sure there's many people who will disagree or who will be triggered by what I'm saying and want me to take accountability of something, and I might just be wrong. I might have worded things sloppily or just flat out been wrong about some things that I said. Or I'm just coming off in a certain way that seems apathetic, but I'm not trying to be apathetic to anyone. I'm trying to actually be truly empathetic and help them realize a major source of their suffering, which is your beliefs and your compulsive need to keep talking about it. And so I created this video with that intent, to help people and to vent some of my own beliefs, but not really beliefs. It's more, and not venting either, it's sharing my perspective of what I have experienced and what I truly think is right and best for everyone. Although these are just words and not exactly the truth, and I might be wrong. So leave a comment down below. What do you think? What have you experienced? Are you willing to experiment and try something new? Because I have, and that's one big reason why this seems to be true from my experience, because I've been on every end of it, and I'm willing to change and go to the other side to see if this works, and go to the other side to see if this works. I'm not so attached to one belief or this belief, and being that way has made me realize that I should not be talking as much throughout the day, especially in these social situations, and not be compulsively talking and not be venting and not be trying to make myself a victim. But I don't judge anyone for being this way, and I've been that way, and I still do these things sometimes as well. I'm just saying, we don't need this unnecessary suffering, and we can both be liberated from it. Thank you for watching. For the animals! Woo!